Good evening. This is the story of one of the deadliest weekends in western Pennsylvania history. It is also the story of how this community will come together and rebuild. We call it Rebuilding Together.
Now, some of that healing process will begin right here in the next half hour as we talk to the governor live in Harrisburg and find out what the government can do. And then we'll roll out a new version of Katie's Army and see what we can do for ourselves.
We start by looking back over the nightmare that the tornadoes wrought. 63 dead, homes lost, towns lost. Ralph Iannati tells it best from his vantage point in Big Beaver.
Well, Stacy, I'm standing right now almost exactly in the same spot where I was standing Friday night, just 72 hours ago. I know what happened here, but it's still very difficult for me personally to comprehend it. Even tonight, it's difficult to imagine the enormity of this destruction.
It was something you had to see to believe, and even then, it seemed incredible. The damage, the total devastation, it left you in a state of shock. Here in Albion, it looked like the work of a wrecking crew. As many as 700 people, nearly half the residents in this small Erie County community, were left homeless. 9 people died here, nearly 100 were injured.
Albion's gone.
What did you say?
Albion's gone.
A lot of death, and it'd be hard to live with this for another week or two.
I've never seen anything like this before.
It wasn't just homes that were destroyed. Tom and Shirley Lauer spent 16 years building up this business, and in 30 seconds last night, it was all gone.
Here's a symbol of the devastation out here. This was the ticket booth at the Spotlight 88 drive-in. What's left of the ticket booth was found in those trees back there.
The same storm that spawned the other killer tornadoes was responsible for the devastation in Beaver County. The Big Beaver shopping mall tornado touched down just after 8 o'clock Friday night. 2 hours later, when I arrived, rescuers were still sifting through the rubble looking for the dead and injured.
The rubble's like 4 or 5 foot high. If anybody back there, it's going to take a while to dig them out. We did the best search they could with lights.
When firefighters arrived on the scene, the first thing they did was conduct an initial sweep through this entire complex, looking for anybody who might be still trapped under the rubble.
Hopefully everybody got out.
This is the toy department at the James Wade department store, where rescuers went from one darkened aisle to the next looking for victims. 3 people lost their lives here. The death toll could have been a lot higher. In a dozen western Pennsylvania counties, it was as if the skies had opened up and death had cast a long, dark shadow.
That's a tornado.
What we saw was just looked like clouds all of a sudden just starting to get sucked up in the air, and then pretty soon they started coming around this way. And I told my kids, I said, get down in the basement.
I saw the trees, leaves and branches flying everywhere, so I just stuck my head. 5 seconds later, the house just flipped over twice.
Beaver County, Butler, Crawford, Erie, Forest, Lycoming, McKean, Northumberland, Mercer, Union, Venango. The Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency says 1,200 homes were badly damaged or destroyed by the string of tornadoes.
To us, it was home. You know, we lived here. My fiancé and I had 2 years here. You know, we lost everything.
In Wheatland, Mercer County, 7 people died. 50 homes were leveled. Those displaced tried to collect what they could, and in many cases, that wasn't very much.
The family's safe. We both made it. There was only the 2 of us, but we haven't found our animals. Nothing.
We ain't got nothing here. Everybody from over there, stuff's over here.
Reverend Tatum?
Yes, sir.
I'm Dick Thornburg.
How are you?
I'm very well. I'm sorry to have to see you under these circumstances.
Yeah, well, I know.
Well, there's no way any repair or emergency declaration or any efforts can bring back the lives of men, women, and children who were snuffed out in this tragic events.
By now, the shock of these past few days has settled in, but still it's hard to believe. This was not something happening to somebody else. The twisters stretching from Beaver Falls to Albion had left their mark. People prayed, and everyone wished it was only a bad dream. But those who lived through it knew there was no going back, no waking up from this nightmare.
In television, we rely on pictures to tell the story, but this is one instance I don't think where that has worked properly, simply because of the magnitude of the destruction that we've been witnessing over the past 3 days. Stacy and Patty?
All right. Thank you very much, Ralph. Well, now it's, Patty, the time is to get on with the job of rebuilding.
And Stacy, when we come back, we're going to talk to Governor Richard Thornburg, and we're also going to remuster KD's army.
I just thank God my kids lived. I don't know how they lived, but they lived.
For over a century, the homeless have found a helping hand behind this shield. Yes, the Salvation Army has always had its door open to these poor exiles from the mainstream of life. These desperate homeless are walking emblems of poverty and suffering in affluent America. They live without addresses, without family or friends, often ineligible for food stamps or welfare. Their meager lives bounded by trash cans and alleyways. Some are just overwhelmed by circumstances they can't cope with. For thousands like these, the Salvation Army offers shelter, care, clothing, nourishing food, a place to sleep, and a chance to rebuild their lives through spiritual guidance and counsel. With your active support, the Salvation Army will continue to be a shelter in the storm and a helping hand behind this shield.
The storms have passed, but there is little calm left behind. Among the grief, among the devastation, groups of people are rolling up their sleeves and rebuilding what was destroyed.
First, after the storm, you mourn. Here, an Amish gathering, one of their congregation taken. The tornado ripped through their homes, their farms, it destroyed their town, and it shattered their fragile privacy. A shy and simple religious people, the Amish shun modern ways, but today on the rubble-strewn roads near their town, the town of Atlantic, their times and hours meet to begin again. They're people of the land, and that's where they began, gathering in stock scattered by the storm. Here, a farm destroyed, a home gone. Here, a son will move his family, his stock, all that's left, to his father's farm. And that's how the Amish will rebuild. Father helping son, brother helping brother, neighbor helping neighbor.
I expect if they rebuild in that way, you'll see hundreds of them in here, you know, from other communities. They come by bus.
They've already begun to gather. Soon, they'll begin to work. They have no insurance. They take no help from strangers. But they have come together to help their own. A man died at this farm. Someone has already salvaged the jars the family canned its food with. And neighbors met to clear the field, to try to save a crop of corn. That's how they begin again. Today, they save the corn. Tomorrow, they bury the dead. And then, as neighbors, they build back what the storm took away.
The government is also doing its part to help the victims rebuild. Now, just this afternoon, President Reagan declared 12 Pennsylvania counties a disaster area. Those counties are Beaver, Butler, Crawford, Erie, Forest, Lycoming, McKean, Mercer, Northumberland, Venango, Union, and Warren. So that means that the storm victims of those counties are now eligible for federal funds to rebuild.
And Stacy, the state is promising help too. To tell us what kind of help, Governor Thornburg is joining us by satellite now from Harrisburg. Governor, what can you tell these people that have lost lives, homes, possessions? What should they do?
Well, Patty, Ginny and I were in 3 of the hardest hit areas over the weekend, and the 2 things that really impressed us was the absolutely indescribable nature of the damage that was done and the determination of the people in those communities to put themselves and their communities back on their feet. Immediately following word of the severity of the storm, we had National Guard and state police personnel to preserve order and security in the area. Our PennDOT crews were out to clear the highway. The National Guard personnel were helping to clear rubble out of areas that we visited over the weekend. And with the designation of an emergency area, we are able to target all of our state resources into that area. We can't do anything about the 62 men, women, and children who lost their lives in this event, but we are able to help in the rebuilding of homes and in providing public services in the interim.
Governor, what is the main clearinghouse for these people? What should they do tomorrow? Who should they call? Who should they go to see?
We'll be establishing this week a total of 12 disaster assistance centers, which will be one-stop operations where both federal and state authorities will be there to handle problems that arise in connection with the recovery. The first 6 of those will be established before the end of the week, and they will be the prime focus for the efforts that both state and federal authorities will be carrying out.
Governor, should they bring something with them so that people will know at these disaster relief centers that they are the victims, first of all, and secondly, is there a limit to how much they can receive?
I think they ought to bring any valuable papers that evidence ownership or insurance coverage or title to automobiles or other property that may have been lost during the disaster. The limits will be determined, obviously, by the degree of the need. We have some 2,000 homes that were damaged or destroyed. A lot of those have been insured. We'll have insurance department representatives at our one-stop center. In many cases, payments can be made initially at that site. There'll also be Internal Revenue Service personnel there from the federal government to aid in providing casualty loss deductions that can be carried back 3 years, and cash payments in many instances can be made on the spot there. Our own resources through the Department of Community Affairs, the Department of Public Welfare, encompass emergency grants, and applications for temporary housing will be handled through the Federal Housing and Urban Development. But I emphasize that all these can be taken care of at one stop when these centers are established later on this week.
All right, Governor Richard Thornburgh, thank you so much for joining us live from Harrisburg. Now, the one thing that seems to be needed most in this time of disaster was a clearinghouse for people who need help and people who want to help. Our answer was to reactivate KD's Army. Now, Wayne Van Dyne has taken charge of that project, and he's working now with a bank of volunteers manning the phones. Wayne, want to fill us in on what you're doing?
Patty, I'd be happy to, because as encouraging as it is that Governor Thornburgh and indeed the President of the United States have acknowledged what has happened here in the tri-state area, and they have certainly taken some very positive steps to help, the fact is it's really not enough, because not everybody is going to receive the help that they need. People who have lost virtually everything. And that's where you come in, and that's where these volunteers from KDKA's Call for Action and from the American Red Cross, that's where they come in. They've been answering the telephone throughout the afternoon and evening, and you folks have been very responsive, and we deeply appreciate it. It's 261-2211, the number, and that number is not only for those of you that have something you want to donate that might help out in this situation, but it's for those of you who have a particular problem in the area where you live, something you need. So call us at 261-2211 and let our volunteers know either what you need or what you would care to give, either in the way of cash donations that will help the Red Cross with their cash grants or the household items. Now, we'll be talking a little later to some of the volunteers to find out what kind of calls we've been getting and what type of problems that the people seem to be having out there as far as the disaster itself is concerned. Right now, Patty, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Wayne. Now, you can start helping the victims rebuild their lives right now. Let's go outside the KDKA studios to Lynn Sawyer for more on that. Lynn?
Earlier, the disaster victims need immediate aid, and many of you have already answered the call. Cars have been pulling up here all night into the Gateway traffic circle here. We've loaded up one truck, and it's already on its way, and this truck will be on its way very soon. It's almost filled to the brim right now. These are some of the items that the people need, and according to the disaster relief agencies. If you would like to help, they need clothing in all sizes, shapes, weights. They need baby clothing and supplies of all kinds. Personal care items, toiletries, soap. Somebody just pulled up here and donated a box of 100 toothbrushes. They will come in very handy. Household items, appliances. There's a lot of furniture and other items on the truck. Cleaning, that sort of stuff. Cleanup materials are in great demand. Buckets, mops, brooms, sponges, soap, that sort of thing. Flashlights and batteries will help in areas where the power is still out. And last but certainly not least, they need a helping hand. They need manual labor and trucks to come and help with the cleanup process. If you can spare any of these items listed, we'll be here until midnight tonight with the truck, and then tomorrow morning, John Cigna and the K-team will be here at 6 a.m. with the truck if you want to bring anything in on your way to work. But we'd like to thank the Sheriff's deputies and the Allegheny County Department of Public Works and the Salvation Army for their help. Back to you, Patty and Stacy.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Now, there are thousands of families who must rebuild, among them Charles McCorkle, his wife Teresa, and their 2-year-old daughter Amber. They were in their rural Butler County trailer Friday when the storm lifted it off its foundation and slammed it into a huge tree. They survived, and they join us tonight. Mr. and Mrs. McCorkle, it's been 3 days now. Can you tell us possibly what your family has been through in the past 3 days?
Patty, it's hard to explain unless you've really been there to experience what we went through and other families in the area went through.
What have you been doing for the past 3 days?
Just getting my belongings together and going through the rubble and moving everything down to my parents' place.
Mrs. McCorkle, you look like you were injured in the storm. Can you tell us what happened to you?
I really don't know. Something hit me, and to this day, I'm not sure what it was. We were in the bathroom, so it could have been anything that flew around in there.
Have the relief agencies and all been able to help you out?
They're working on it as well as other families in the area. Really didn't get much information on what to do right now.
What do you need right now? What would help you the most?
I guess...
It's hard to know where to start.
You lost everything, is that correct?
Right.
Everything.
So how are you existing now? Are you living with family, did you say?
Yes, we're living with my parents right now.
And what about your neighbors and your friends who went through this disaster? What are they doing to keep together? Is everybody pulling together?
Yes. Everybody in the community is helping everybody else out.
What about the future for the McCorkles? What does that hold for you?
Just start all over again, I imagine. Just pick up
the pieces.
Start all over.
It's obvious you both have been devastated by this loss, and our prayers are with you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, when we continue, we're going to look into the financial story.
And Bob Cuzma will be along, and he'll talk some sense about tornadoes.
Pick up and start all over again. That's all you can do. You can't have to have a positive attitude to it, because you wouldn't be able to make it if you didn't. Just have to pray, I guess. Thank God you're alive.
Evening magazine, this evening in Pittsburgh. Spend it with you, take you, show you. We're gonna show you where it's at, how to be it, or to see it, where they hide it, how to ride it, or to slide it, when to shop it, or to pop it. Sing it, fling it, ring it, sing it, dine with you, shine with you, the how of it, where of it, why of it, high of it, get you inside, take you up there. Every evening, hottest item in town, every time we get together, right here in Pittsburgh, we focus on everything you do. This evening, Katie and you.
As if you have not been able to tell by now, a tornado is one of the most destructive forces on Earth. And unfortunately, we are not out of the tornado season yet. Meteorologist Bob Cuzma says we still must be paying close attention to the weather for the next couple of months. Bob?
Stacey, that's right. Friday night, we were in a tornado watch area, and what exactly does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what it means. It means that tornadoes are a possibility in our area. When you have a tornado warning, it means tornadoes are on the ground. We had those also. I would say that if a tornado watch area was issued for our area, or a severe thunderstorm area was issued for our area, I would say the best thing to do if threatening weather did approach would be to go to the cellar and stay there until the thunderstorm's passed over. I think we all have a tendency to kind of ignore these watches because most of the time, yes, most of the time, they really don't affect us in any way. But I still say if you're in a watch area and thunderstorms are rolling in, the best thing to do is head to your cellar and stay there in safety for the next hour or so until the thunderstorms pass on by. And that's the only advice I can really give right now. The tornadoes we had, of course, in western Pennsylvania were most severe, and I doubt this will ever happen again in our lifetimes, usually once every 250 years, and that's it. Stacy and Patty?
Yeah, you say only once in a lifetime, every 250 years, but then again, this past Friday proved that you have to pay attention to those watches and warnings.
I say, yes, absolutely. Pay attention to them, and I still say I also, we tend to just ignore these things and assume it just can't happen to us.
No, unfortunately, as you well know, being a meteorologist, lots of times you cannot tell there is a tornado until they are actually sighted or touched down, and unfortunately, that's when sometimes it's too late.
That's exactly right. When we issue a tornado warning, it's already on the ground, already destroying areas, and it's just too late. Tornado watches, you have to pay close attention.
Okay. Thank you, Bob.
Well, it's going to take more than a strong spirit and fair weather to pick up the pieces now. It's going to take money, millions, before this job is done, and where that money will come from is what money specialist Craig Miller has spent the day checking. Craig?
Well, Patty, it's true that most people who own a home or a business have some kind of insurance. If you're paying a mortgage, especially, you don't have any choice most of the time. It's required. But insurance is not going to pay for everything in this case, and so government will have to fill in the gaps.
Ron Gibson's house was just one of 52 houses destroyed when the twisters tore through Beaver County.
That's everything I had. I built it. It's gone.
And in almost 1,000 homes in a dozen counties in Pennsylvania, there are people in the same situation as Ron Gibson. And authorities say it is still too soon to say how many jobs were lost. At the Big Beaver Shopping Center, also in Beaver County, it's estimated that as many as 180 are unemployed because of the damage. They are entitled to unemployment benefits. By the end of this week, there should be relief centers set up in most disaster counties, offering temporary housing, family grants, low-interest loans, and funds for minor home repairs. To rebuild both homes and businesses, the Small Business Administration will offer low-interest loans of up to $100,000 for homeowners and $500,000 for businesses. Interest rates range from 4% to just over 11%, and some loans can be spread out over 30 years.
Now, there are almost certainly people out there who are in the position of having lost both their homes and their jobs in one felled swoop this weekend. And if you're one of those people, then the first thing you need to do is to get down to the unemployment office tomorrow, if you haven't done it already, and apply for unemployment compensation, even if you think you're not eligible for it, because the state has a different set of rules for people like you who've lost your jobs as a result of disasters. And Patty, the relief centers are supposed to be set up by Friday or Saturday, and we're beginning to hear about companies like one in Wheatland that, despite the fact that it had problems of its own because it got hit by the tornado, are turning around and donating, in this case, $150,000 to the community, and so that's heartening.
It certainly is. These communities are really pitching in. Thanks very much, Craig.
And it's also heartening what we've seen already about people bringing in food items and other goods outside our studios. Many of you, of course, have called in offering help or are asking for help. Well, let's go back now to Wayne Van Dyne and Katie's Army to hear some of the stories that the callers are telling. Wayne?
Well, Stacy, the volunteers have been here since this afternoon, and they're going to be here until midnight answering the calls at 261-2211. And we appreciate the response, whether it's somebody that wants to donate some help or perhaps somebody who needs a particular thing. How are the calls coming in?
Oh, they're coming in fine. I had a pharmacist from Aliquippa that said that he would donate medicine.
Right. From a pharmacist. That's great. How about you, sir? Well, lots of calls?
We've had lots of calls. At least 60 checks in the last hour and a half. It's been good.
I'm glad to hear it. How about you, sir? Anybody have any particular suggestions?
Well, yes, Mr. Van Dyne. One of my contributors suggested that small children may have lost all of their toys, and she suggested that new, small, cuddly toys might assist in restoring their sense of security, and suggested that that would be a good contribution.
Great idea. Well, you can see how it's coming in, and we sincerely thank you. Remember the number, 261-2211 is the number to call us for either help or any other suggestions you may have. And, of course, they're going to be here till midnight, and the trucks are going to be out in front of the station until midnight. Stacy, Patty?
Right. Thank you, Wayne. Rebuilding Together will continue.
Up next, a special look at some folks who have already begun.
We're just going to raise that church up again, and it's going to be there, and then we're just going to be in that place and praise the Lord.
You are looking at the greatest gift in the world, the gift of life. The American Red Cross asks that you donate your blood so a fellow human being can live. Give the gift of life. Give blood. No other gift will ever mean as much.
For over a century, the Salvation Army has opened its doors to the homeless, to those who live without an address, without family or friends, their meager lives bounded by trash cans and alleyways. To thousands like these, the Salvation Army offers shelter, nourishing food, a place to sleep, and a chance to rebuild their lives through spiritual counseling and the helping hand behind this shield.
Whether you've called our hotline tonight or rolled up your sleeves and dug in, we have begun rebuilding together. We've heard some of you called heroes, and you may be, but for the most part, you're just good, caring people. And tonight we want to give you a look at some of those folks who are doing because it needs to be done.
These are all your important papers?
Birth certificates and stuff.
You found them all, huh?
The neighbors found them over at their place. But this is what I wanted. We found them.
How's it coming?
Whoa. Working at it.
And I watched it just take everything out, and I'm screaming, oh, God, please let my family live. Please let my family live.
We're alive. It's the main thing. Everybody's alive. Insurance will replace it all.
They're insured with Erie, and I've been assigned their claims.
Okay.
And I'm going to take a look at their houses while I'm here.
Hey, Gail.
What? This stuff yours? And we'll start over again. They take a while, but we'll be okay. Yeah, we'll make it. Thank you.
And make it we will.
For all of us on the Eyewitness News staff, good night and good luck, Western Pennsylvania.
There are two ways to buy this Father's Day gift. One is to pay full price in this fancy store. The other is to save 20 to 60% on the very same gift at TJ Maxx. Right now, we've got designer knits. They make great gifts. Famous name dress shirts, brand name slippers, and more. All at 20 to 60% savings. So give Dad the Max, but get it for the minimum.
You get the Max for the minimum at TJ Maxx.
When you create one of the finer things in life, you spare no expense. Martini & Rossi commissions only the finest grapes from the most prestigious vineyards in the Asti region of Italy. Then nature adds sparkle with light, refined bubbles. The result, a unique, delicate taste, distinguished throughout the world. Martini & Rossi Asti Spumanti, when good taste is most important.
Please talk with your family about organ donation.
Together, we can give thousands a second chance.
We're in for a nice summer day tomorrow. I'll tell you all about it on the update at 11.